ANOW is the central desktop for the appraisal office, whether it be mobile tools or your accounts receivable or getting paid by credit card. There are new ways to do things that make your business more efficient, and that's what we offer.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
And welcome, everybody. This is Dustin Harris, hanging out in the podcast chair at the 2017 Las Vegas Valuation Expo. And you're going to hear a little bit of ambient noise in the background simply because I am on the showroom floor, sitting down with a great individual. Can't wait to introduce you to. But first, want to remind you, of course, we are sponsored by ANOW software. ANOW is the software that I use to manage my entire business. And I mean that sincerely. You're going to hear more about that today and why it works the way that it does. But for now, go to www.anow.com/coach. Again, it's anow.com/coach. Well, folks, speaking of ANOW software, I have the man, Mr. Greg Fandrick from ANOW, all the way from the great north from Calgary, where it's very cold this time of year, right?
Unbelievably, it snowed this week. Even though it's going to warm up, we actually had snow in Canada.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Greg, welcome. You know, I should set this up and just say that here we are at the Valuation Expo 2017. We're in Las Vegas. We're on the showroom floor. Every time I look up, I look over, and just over there, I see your booth. ANOW is set up. You've got a line out the door, people wanting to know more about ANOW software. So I appreciate you taking time away from your busy selling schedule over there to talk to us a little bit about the software. Tell us, first of all, let's say people have been living under a rock and they don't know what ANOW is. The biggest question I get, Greg, is why should I stop using Excel or Google Sheets or some other spreadsheet to pay money for something that is going to virtually do the same thing?
That's a great question because most appraisers have been in practice a while. They have their way of doing things, and it's hard to change. So you need a reason to change, and usually that is you have to see some productivity enhancements or great new tools. And that's really what ANOW is about. Our background is we are appraisers. We thought there was a better way to run our office, and so we started to write ANOW, and now we think we're software tycoons, but that's what we're doing. Just like a dentist buys software to run their dentist practice, or a lawyer needs lawyer software, we believe appraisers need appraisal software just to keep their business running.
Right.
Why do it? It's about productivity. It's about doing things faster and better. Shows like this talk about how fast our industry is changing.
Sure.
It is. New tools, new integrations, data moving faster. ANOW is the central desktop for the appraisal office, whether it be mobile tools or your accounts receivable or getting paid by credit card. There are new ways to do things that make your business more efficient, and that's what we offer.
Right.
I think we're unique in that we focus on software written just for the appraiser. There's lots of people in our ecosystem, but our product is for the appraiser.
You know, even as somebody who coaches other individuals to utilize more technology, it's a huge asset, or can be, to an appraiser to be able to do more with less. Just a few minutes ago, I had somebody at my booth, and he said, I'm a single person entity. I'm really not interested in hiring anybody. I've done it in the past. I'm not, that's just not in the wheelhouse for me. He says, how can you help me to be more productive? How can you help me to do more with less? I said, let's talk technology. Let's talk things like ANOW. Let's talk things like other programs, other software, other online tools that allow you to be able to do more with less. Appraisers are resistant to that. I don't know why, other than we're human beings and we don't like change. And Greg, I'll just be honest with you. When I first heard about ANOW software, it was not the first company that had approached me with something and said, hey, will you try this out? We want you to try this. And I was skeptical. I thought, I've got a spreadsheet. ANOW is not a spreadsheet.
No, we're actually quite a back office that runs where everything from your calendaring to see where you're going to be during the day, to mapping your locations, your history, to order entry, to workflow and tasks, to invoicing, accounts receivable, all the things that you need to actually stay on top of your business. So yeah, it's a much more larger suite. I think appraisers, we have about 50% of our customers are a sole appraiser. single guy.
Okay.
He may not use all those features that we have, but he's going to use some of them that will be productivity enhancements. An example of that is what we're talking about is the integrations. So what does integration mean? It just means a way to work with another provider out there. Anytime you can stop typing addresses once, twice, 3 times, you're saving time.
Yeah.
So when a company like ANOW starts integrating with others, you're saving time, even if you are just a solopreneur, a single guy out there. So I think the features that you find either in our product or others, as you said, those are time-saving measures.
Right.
Probably the largest change that I've seen, just to kind of get into a little bit more detail, is the pervasiveness of mobile. Now you don't have to sit in front of your desk to be connected to the office. You can carry it on your iPad, you can carry it on your phone. I've heard people say, oh, that's just a big chain to the office. It's true. You are chained to the desk. You know what? It's a really long chain. You can be anywhere.
I love that. So one of the things that has been different for me this past year is the mobile app and the opportunity for me to log on. I know that we've always had the ability to be able to go to a web browser and pull up ANOW and look at it that way. The app makes it so much easier because anytime, so I'll be honest with you, Greg, before the app, I used to message my office and I would say, how many appraisals did we do last month? How many non-lender appraisals did we do last month? How are we doing this month as compared to, the same month last year? And they would go into ANOW, they would figure it out and they'd give me the message back. It's just as easy now for me as an appraiser, even though I've got the assistants back at the office and they've got it in front of them. Now, again, that's also on the cloud. It's not a software that you put on your computer, but they can look it up or, it's as easy for me to pull it up on the app and look for myself as it is to message them. I love that about ANOW.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of feedback. So I think that's an example of productivity enhancements, things that make you a little bit more effective, easier. Is you don't have to be tied to the office. You can log in anywhere. There was a big discussion yesterday at the Valuation Expo about what the cloud is. And after all the technical discussions yesterday and it didn't really matter. The point is it makes your data available where you are.
Wherever you are. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a big benefit.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. You said this company was started by appraisers. Talk to us a little bit more about the roots there. Marty Haldane, successful appraiser in Canada, wanted a better way to manage his office, and then ANOW kind of sprung from that, right?
Yeah, that was the roots of it. So Marty is our founder, very, very smart man, had a great vision, but really it started with a problem. Everything always starts with a problem. And his problem was he wanted to buy software that he could help schedule his team.
Sure.
He wanted to find a better way to invoice, and he couldn't buy it, dedicated to our industry. So we thought, I can write this. So that really was the foundation. Took us about a year to get the first modules kind of up and running and out on the marketplace. Because we were targeting just appraisers, we didn't really care about the ecosystem of the lenders and the order management platforms and all that kind of stuff. We just wanted the tool for the appraiser. We got take pretty quick, including eventually things like the appraiser coach in your office, Dustin. That started to spread like wildfire. And we've always had a philosophy, at least Marty's had a philosophy that he's put his team around, is that we respond to our users' demands.
Right.
We offer free support, like little things like that, but we listen to our appraisers. And as such, we've collected about a year's worth of, hey, I need this, I need that.
Right.
And we've added them.
Right.
So we're a small, flat team. The only reason I mention that to our listeners is when you're small, you're flat, you're connected to our customers, we're releasing new feature requests once every 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
This summer, we released 6 new features. And all those features weren't, oh, I think this is cool. It came because a customer said, you know what would help me?
Right.
And so we built it. And I think that's what is driving the philosophy of our company. It comes from Marty. It's appraiser focused, which I know I'm saying this over and over, but I think that's the difference is when we hear our appraisers, our customers say, and I say it's not just appraisers, it could be your office manager saying I need a better way to do accounts receivable.
Right.
It could be the lady who's doing the booking says, I wish I could visualize this on the map or whatever. That's feedback that's important to us. And so we've been really quick about releasing it, and we've got more coming. Like we're releasing fast. So the company we're small. Yeah, we're still small. We're only about 16, 17 people right now. Okay. We are based in Western Canada because that's Marty's home. It's actually in a very small town called Red Deer. A couple of the other staff are distributed in the cities roundabout, but it's a fairly short drive.
Sure.
And other than that, we have reaching out really across North America. We're getting our first international customers. So it's an exciting time.
Nice. So let's talk features for just a second. In fact, I want to go back to how I set this up in the beginning, and that is I talk to appraisers who are, like me, skeptical. I've been doing it this way forever. I've got a spiral notebook. I just write down the address, I write down the order number, I write down the fee, and I cross it off when I get paid, right?
Right.
That may be the old school way, but somebody like me who was using Google Sheets to keep track of my orders, we're going to be skeptical. And you're talking about all these features. Let's talk about, obviously we don't have time to talk about all of them, but give me some idea of some of the things that make ANOW software different than, say, an Excel spreadsheet.
Good. So I think the functionality is generally the same. And what I mean by that is what we have is a book of orders. Appraisers have a book of appraisals they got to get done. And whether it's a spiral notebook, which we had at one time, in fact,
sure.
a picture was on our website.
Yeah.
It could be an Excel spreadsheet, as you said. The functionality is the same. The difference is the availability to work on that collaboratively and to take it with you. Are you a person that's going to travel with your laptop to stay on top of things, or do you just want it on your mobile phone? I think we've added the key feature to just that tracking, that Excel, imagine an Excel set of lines across it, is we've added things like workflow tasking, which sounds like a big word, but all it is what's my to-do list to get that appraisal done?
On that particular
order.
Right.
I can go in and make that to-do list whatever I want. Yeah, ANOW calls it workflow and tasking, but I just think of it as a to-do list.
Sure.
But now I've got something that reminds me that it needs to be done. You say, well, it's my job to stay on top of it. That's true, but we're all human.
How does it remind you?
So all it does is just every morning it sends you a quick email.
Yeah.
I think we execute at 5 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. Our appraisers wake up, they get a quick email that says, hey, good morning, Dustin, this is your day. You've got 2 appraisals due. Oh, that was due yesterday. You got 2 appointments this afternoon.
I never get that one.
Never overdue.
Right.
So that's where the information kind of provides that value, just organizes your day. So you're saying, there's the functionality that much different than a notebook or an Excel spreadsheet. In the essence of the job it's performing, it's the same function. It's just faster, more automated. It's got those visual reminders. It goes with you on your phone. That's what gives you those productivity enhancements.
Right. And I would just say, if anybody's thinking about ANOW software and thinking, okay, well, there's a quote unquote cost involved, right? I hate that word. I think you ought to look at it as an investment. But nonetheless, let's say that an appraiser is looking at it that way and saying, well, yeah, okay, but I can get a spreadsheet for free, whether it be a spiral notebook or Google is free. One of the things that I think appraisers need to look at, and again, this goes back to the investment comment, is understanding that if you miss one due date, meaning it's overdue because you failed to look at something that ANOW would have reminded you about 2 days ago, right? You've paid for the quote-unquote cost of ANOW and then some, because number one, you had that thing in on time, and number two, you don't have your score affected by the clients that you're working for.
Right.
Just one example of how ANOW really does pay for itself.
I think it pays for itself too we like to talk about this a lot. We've printed a little brochure about it, but I think this applies to the industry in general. It's about productivity enhancements. There's the national survey, Appraiser survey, 2015 said the average appraiser in the United States in 2015 was performing 19 appraisal orders per month as an average. I know some people are way more productive.
Sure.
Some people are part-time, but as an average. Yeah. That average changed in the 2016 survey by 1.5 appraisals, or up to 20.5. So you say, oh, well, that's good. Generally, the marketplace is getting a little bit more, finding some more productivity. The tools are making things easier to get things done.
Sure.
ANOW customers, to run that same average, agnostically, it's like no person, that means we just pull the data.
Right.
Our average appraiser does 38 appraisals per month. That's an 84% productivity improvement. Now, does that mean that our customers are that much more experienced or are all techie trained so they use tools? No, they're average appraisers. It's just we've simplified the process for them.
Exactly.
So they do more in the same period of time.
Without cutting quality, and that's a key. I think most appraisers think if I'm going to do more volume, then I have to cut corners. ANOW keeps you from, in fact, not just keeps you from cutting corners, but actually enhances the quality, in my opinion.
That is our belief.
Yeah.
So I think that goes directly to, yes, do we charge a fee for our service? Absolutely we do. Yet when you're doing, let's just say you're doing 80% more work for that fee, you're paying for it. It's an investment in your firm.
Absolutely.
And I think what comes out of that is the biggest value. And this is where it goes a little bit back to features, but appraisers actually are massive data collectors. They don't realize it. When they use ANOW, we collect that data and present it back to them. So we have a module called analytics. Some people call it business reports. But without doing anything, You're getting a travel log of every address that you've traveled to in the distance. That's great for your taxes. You're getting your accounts receivable. You're getting a payroll module if you're working with a contractor or an employee. You're getting the intelligence reports of where are my key clients, where are my key regions.
Right.
You're doing nothing to enter that. So argumentatively, you might say, wow, that doesn't make any difference in my job 9 to 5 today. But at the end of the month, or at the end of the quarter when you have to send it to your accountant, that's a huge time saver.
Makes a big difference. I want to pause here and just remind you that we are, of course, sponsored by ANOW Software. Kind of awkward here. I'm interviewing Mr. ANOW himself, but you guys have been a sponsor here for a long time. From the very beginning of our minisodes, you've been a sponsor here, which I appreciate, because the great thing about sponsors here on this program is that I don't have to make up stuff. I have a very strict criterion. I'm not going to allow a sponsor to be on this program unless I stand behind their product, unless I'm using their product and I stand behind their product. It's easy to do that with ANOW Software. Folks, if you've not checked out ANOW Software, you need to. Just go to their website. And, when you go to anow.com, put a /coach at the end of that. That will allow you to get 3 free months of the All-Star team, which will allow you to get more tips and tricks and ability to be able to increase your workflow and be able to enhance the quality of your reports at the same time. Again, it's anow.com/coach. One more time, anow.com/coach.
Anything you want, just to put a smile on it. You deserve it, baby. You deserve it all. And I'm gonna give it to you. Gold jewelry shining so bright. Strawberry champagne on us. Lucky for you, that's what I like.
And we are back, folks. We're sitting down here at the Valuation Expo 2017 in Las Vegas, Nevada, with Mr. Greg Fandrick of ANOW Software. Welcome back, Greg.
Thanks.
I appreciate you coming on today. I think it's important for appraisers who don't really get the vision of what ANOW is to kind of see the broader scope. And I want to focus in on a couple of other features that I think are important. They seem minor. As you talked about the workflow, what do they call it? The workflow?
Yeah, task list.
The task list, right? So some people say, well, yeah, but how does that really affect me? Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. I've got a couple of different assistants working for me. One mainly works in the morning, one mainly works in the afternoon. They do some overlap. One in the morning might get a call from an AMC, and let's say they put a report on hold, for example. We're going to use the notes section of that process. Now, it's automated in the sense that we already know where that appraisal is in the overall life cycle, if you will, of the report from inception to delivery. We can see that at a glance. But the other thing that I love is the fact that we can put notes in the section. ANOW tells us who put the note in there, what time, what date they put that note in there, so that when my assistant comes in the afternoon and gets a call, say from the borrower, from someone else saying, hey, what's going on this, they can quickly, at a glance, start typing in the address. It automatically pops up. It auto-populates. You don't have to type the whole address to search for something. You click on it, immediately you're drawn to the notes. You can look at it and say, oh, looks like there was a phone call this morning at 10:13, and the lender put this on hold for this reason. Immediately we know what's going on with that report. Right. It's amazing.
Yeah, that little feature is a major time saver. Again, a little bit of a just customer feedback. We have a customer in Vancouver, BC that felt they emailed or phoned the field appraisers 30 times a week, just on that. Communications back and forth. It's on hold. What's the status? What's the latest date? The notes field has taken those phone calls down to 2 a week.
Wow.
Just because you're logging in and you're seeing the thread. There it is.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I wanted to point out is the tags. I think that's a little used feature. Most appraisers I've talked to don't use the tags. They should, and here's why. One of the things that we do, we use a la mode. Their sponsor here, everybody knows I use a la mode software. A la mode's great for a lot of things. One of the things that I don't like about a la mode is that you can't tag reports. And what I mean by that is, let's say I do an appraisal on a property that's got waterfront. And let's say, 6 weeks down the road, I have another property that's on waterfront. And I remember in the back of my head doing some regression analysis, doing some comparative analysis, really coming up with a pretty good value on what that waterfront was. In other words, take a similar home that doesn't have that waterfront, and there's a difference. There's an adjustment there. And I remember doing a report. I go into a la mode. I don't know if I can be able to find that unless I remember the address or remember the subdivision. I mean, they have search features, absolutely. But to be able to search, for example, waterfront, it's going to bring up nothing, right? ANOW Software, we are tagging each and every one of those unique properties so that when I need to find a report that I've done in the past, I simply go in there, start typing the word water, boom, tag comes up, I tag it. That's the one. That's the report. I can pull it up.
Yeah, it's a great feature to find things. Never shows up in a report, but it's the way you think.
Yeah.
It's the way you search. Sometimes we see some pretty interesting things used in the database. My favorite is seeing someone tag an appraisal as big dog in yard. You can remember that for the next trip, I guess.
Absolutely. So let's shift a little bit. You started to talk a little bit about the analytics side. That to me is the favorite part of ANOW. And most people that listen to this program know that, honestly, I'm not in ANOW that much. That's more my assistants. They're the ones logging the orders. They're the ones keeping track of things. If I have a question about something, I can certainly go in and take a look at it. But where I really use ANOW is the times that I each week work what I call on my business rather than in my business. This is time that I schedule outside of working on appraisals to sit down, to turn off the phone, to turn off the internet, and simply focus on what my business is doing and what I need to do as a business owner to increase that business. ANOW is an integral part of working on my business. I often get asked by individuals who know a little about this. ONI is what I call it, on it, not in it, that I work on each week. And I schedule it on the calendar, and I make sure that I do it on a pretty consistent basis. It's not every week, but it's probably 3 times a month. And they say, well, what do you do during that time? Well, I'll tell you, a lot of that time is spent in the analytics side, the analytics tag of ANOW. Talk to us more about that. What do appraisers find in that side of things that will help them as a business owner?
Well, first, it's gratifying to hear you use it that way because that's the way it was intended. I think I alluded to earlier in our discussion that appraisal offices generate a ton of data. So analytics just remembers that data for your company, whether you're a solopreneur or you've got a few people in the field or staff like your group does, Dustin. When you log in, what you're presented with is your history. So you can pick a sample period. What have I done last month? What did I do this period a year ago? Mm-hmm. You can compare those. And what the system will do is search out who are the clients that you're serving. It'll break them down by name. You can break it down by categories. So if you want to know how much direct lender work I'm doing versus lawyer work versus AMC work, you can break that out and you can quickly visualize that. You want to find out if you've got appraisers on your team, who's been the busiest and running the most. You can find that out. You maybe need to balance workloads. That's where you'll find that, just to balance that out. I think a couple of other features that we put a lot of stock in and would love to see our customers use it more is look back at your order sources. Maybe you owe that broker a lunch because he's really been pumping the volume out to you and you're just getting the jobs done. You don't recognize that that business source is valuable to your company.
Absolutely.
Conversely, that may have been a guy that you did a lot of work with 6 months ago and all of a sudden it's dried up.
Exactly.
Why?
Yeah.
So those little graphs, they pop up. We believe that's kind of our hidden value. Run your business. We're putting a lot of work into analytics. I'd love to tell the audience, I know we've gotten a ton of requests and feedback for different reports that come out of there. They're all in our queue. They're being driven out. Some of it has already been added to maps. So if you haven't looked at it, you can now get all your history on a map view.
Love it.
It's really cool.
Kind of see where you're doing work, where you're concentrating. Maybe that shifts the way that you schedule yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so that feature's been released. We got some accounts receivable changes coming, some better accounting platform integration coming, just because our customers have asked for it. But that all comes from managing your business and understanding.
Yeah.
So we know customers are doing it.
I was driving down the road just last week, and this bank came into my mind. It's one that I've worked for over 10 years. And I thought, I don't remember the last time I had an order from them. That's weird. And so I messaged the office. I'm driving. I'm not going to pull up the app while I'm driving. And just as a curiosity. And I said, Jana, when's the last time we did an appraisal for ABC Bank? Within seconds, she messaged me back and she said, 10 days ago. How did she know that? Well, ANOW software. I mean, it's so easy to be able to get answers to just questions that pop into our head as business owners that we need to be able to answer quickly.
Right. Very cool. Gratifying to hear.
Tell us more about what is on the horizon for ANOW. What are some changes that you're seeing, some of the things that you're starting to integrate into ANOW that appraisers might be interested in?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question because it proves that we do listen to our customers. So I'm excited to talk about some of the things we're doing. I'll talk very briefly on mobile. Our mobile client is getting tons of adoption. We've got big changes coming for that product. It's getting better and better as you go. You're going to see an iPad version. So, there's no real difference between the iPad and the iPhone except for screen size. When you have that screen size on a big tablet, you can display a lot more data. So that's in the pipe. You'll get a lot more view on that. I'm excited about. But that's just on the mobile side. In the app, the most exciting things we're doing, and it really started about 4 or 5 months ago when customers asked us to start integrating to the report writers. So we did our first integration was Total a la mode, back to ANOW. And that was adopted like wildfire. It also set the technical basis for us to do that. So we've gone very hard and fast down the integration roadmap. Why would we do that? Again, this is all about simplifying the flow of information.
Right.
So what's coming? Total is two-way. We're integrating to other report writers like ACI. We're happy to announce as of this show, so I know this will be in hindsight, but the integration to Mercury has now been announced. It's in beta, but it will be after we debug it. It'll be out in about 2 weeks.
No, I want to pause here because I want to make sure appraisers, number one, heard that, and number two, can you just explain briefly what that means? Because you talked about double entering, writing the address twice. What does integration with Mercury do to solve that problem?
Yeah, very good. So if I'm logging into the Mercury portal to accept my orders, I've accepted them, but now if I want to track them and use the ANOW system, it's got to get over to ANOW. So by creating what we call an API, Application Program Interface with Mercury, the moment I accept an order in Mercury, it automatically will appear in ANOW. So it's logged for me. There's no data entry. That is in beta today. On the other side of the beta, status updates will also go back to Mercury. So that's all information that you might have had to type or enter. That's going to be a completely automated flow.
Very cool.
So that's what we think is a big time saver.
By the way, Keith showed me that yesterday, and I was blown away.
It works great.
It's awesome. It's incredible.
Yeah, we're really excited. I'm using this word beta because it's just always best practice to make sure you fully debug it before it's fully released.
Sure.
So we've got a couple hundred users that are beta testing it right now. As of this morning, no bugs I'm aware of, but we'll run through that cycle. But that's a huge integration, and there's more like that coming. So that's what we wanted to look for into the future. The other big feature that we've had a lot of customers ask for is improved reports around accounts reconciliation, really statements. So you're going to see that in the next few weeks, that not only can you see who owes you money for 60 days, but press one button, send them an email reminder, don't have to think twice about it. The system's got to run these reports. So those are some of the things just in the pipeline. Plus, I said I think in the next month, we're going to be announcing some other really cool mobile add-ons, which I touched on, but really cool stuff.
Very, very cool. Greg Fandrick from ANOW Software. Thanks for taking time today to explain a little bit of what the software is, where it's going, and why appraisers should be interested in it.
I'm glad to do it. Thanks for your time, Dustin.
Been a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.